Welcome back, members. This is the second video in my series on the Wilhelm Reach from 2nd edition D&D. If you missed the first episode, the overview, I have a playlist where you can find it. There'll be a link down in the description below, as well as at the end of this video. If you're brand new to the membership here, thank you so much for being a supporter. Thanks for being a part. I hope to bring you value through this series, as well as many other videos coming up. So feel free to let me know down in the comments if you're new, and I would love to hear your ideas and thoughts on how to make this the best member group ever. There are 3 reasons I'm doing this deepish dive into the Wilhelm Reach. Number 1, it's because I'm tired of books gathering dust on my shelf when I can bring them right here to the video and let it be of benefit to all of you. Number 2, I think it's one of the best put together settings in all the realms. And number 3, I want to get into putting together my own player's guide for my Hex Crawl of Horror, which if you haven't heard of, I'll put some links down in the description as well. You can check out the work I'm doing there. I titled my last video, The Dungeons & Dragons Setting Every New DM Should Own, and I believe that. I did not say it was the only one or the best, but certainly one new DM should own because it is so well laid out and something they could use as a model to create their own setting if they should choose to do so. And if you are a new DM, I would love your comments below about what you think of this setting and how you might use it in the future, whether you use it at your game table or whether you use it as a model to create your own setting. Every video in this series is meant to serve you, your table, and your players. I am not running a Forgotten Realms history channel, although that would be fun. I want to share ideas from older D&D materials that will benefit your modern table. So if you're interested in the setting of the Wilhelm Reach, you can download the PDF. There'll be a link down below there for that. So let me share 3 valuable keys this particular setting starts off with, and that I think that are going to be great benefit to you in fleshing out your own setting. Let me start off by reading from the Wilhelm Player's Guide. Not all of the forces at work in the Reach are organizations like the Harpers. My studies of this land showed me the nature of power in the Wilhelm. Political power is held in the usual places as well as in the hands of religious forces. By now, I suppose you're sitting back in your chair wondering who I am. My name is Adamar Session. I'm a bard from Starmantle. I live close enough to the Reach to know something about it, but not close enough to compromise my views. I began my adventuring career when I was only 16. Now I'm 29 and teach history at the college in Starmantle. Adventuring was good while it lasted, but I grew tired of running from powerful monsters and watching friends die from their injuries or some strange disease. In those 12 years of adventuring, I traveled through virtually every part of the Wilhelm. And this brings us to the first key in describing your setting, the weather or climate. If you're looking for snow-swept peaks or valleys glittering with frost on early mornings, you've come to the wrong place. Snow is rare here, though not unheard of. Most of the time, the temperature stays in a comfortable range, only getting close to freezing in the deep of winter. The humidity is high, but not as unbearable as the jungles of Chult to the south. The high humidity makes wearing full and field plate armor unbearable. The only ones I've seen wear that sort of finery are priests of Tempest. They must be running on pure faith to be able to stand the heat. I don't think I need to discuss how quickly metal armor rusts if not properly cared for in this weather. If you are building your own setting, take this as a side note. From the very first 2 paragraphs, you know who is telling this story. It's Adamar Session, and it tells you quite a bit about them, which I'm not going to get into this video, but go back and listen to those paragraphs again, and you'll find out so much about who Adamar is and his relationship to the Wilhelm Reach. Which then brings us to a piece of key information you would want to know when traveling anywhere. What is the weather like? Think about it. Anytime you take a trip, you either check your phone or you check the Weather Channel and you say, what is the weather going to be like? Think about your conversations with people during the day. You're always talking about what kind of weather is it going to do today? You think about, well, what kind of jacket am I going to bring? Do I need an umbrella? Weather is a big conversation for us. And so should it be when you are designing your setting. Let's look at a few things that we discover about the weather in the Wilhelm Reach. Number 1, the weather is traditionally warm. So when you're talking to your PCs, this is going to dictate what they're going to wear, what kind of armor they're going to have, what kind of supplies they should bring along. Maybe they should bring more water if you're into doing checks based on whether characters might get dehydrated, especially after maybe a long battle. If you really want to get nitty gritty and you say, hey, you guys have been out here a long time, everybody do a check for heat stroke or something like that. And I know that sounds like, Paul, that sounds so detailed, so savage. Why would you do that to players? We're trying to have an adventure here. Well, that's just a matter of how much realism you want to add to your game. Weather plays a part in how your characters do what they do. And I'm not saying you should use these. I'm just saying they are options. So taking into account the weather, which is traditionally warm, high humidity, that the weather, at least in these two paragraphs, talks about affecting your armor. Things like field plate, which is similar to full plate but lighter in construction, sacrificing a bit of protection for greater flexibility and mobility. You might need some con checks, or you may have to have some disadvantage if players are going to gear up and they're going to put on plate mail or field plate or any of those things. Then you're going to say, look, you're going to be sweating like a dog and you're going to be prone to dehydration or heat stroke or some of these other things. If you're particular in your games about how armor is put on, you can't just flip on plate armor. You're going to have to go through a process. It'll take so many rounds, or it'll take this much time, whatever it may be. Armor and weather are going to play a part here. It also talks about taking care of your armor. Well, what if you have players that don't take care of their armor and they're constantly in the water, in the weather, and they're not, shining it up or adding oil to it or something like that? Well, guess what? It could rust over time. Once again, you may be saying, Paul, that's just petty stuff. Why are we interested in that? Well, listen, every DM runs their game differently, and I am just speaking to those who happen to look at the details of their campaign or of their world that they're building, and weather plays a part in that. And there are some DMs who want to play that way, and they have players who want to play that way, who take stock of, how many arrows they have and those types of things. So these kind of details matter to certainly not everyone, but to certain DMs it does. And it's at least something to keep into consideration of how detailed do you want to be about your setting. Another thing Adamar connects the weather to is who is wearing plate. Well, it's the priests of Tempest. Well, why are they wearing plate? What is it about them? And what is it about them that they can wear it? Are they a different species of human or a different species altogether? Does magic keep their armor cool? These are things that your players can investigate, but it's also a way to identify certain groups of people in the setting. You'll know who the priests of Tempest are because they're wearing full plate armor for some reason. The second key the Vilhan Reach offers for creating a new setting is the history or calendar of that area. And in this case, there are 45 calendar dates describing the history of the Vilhan Reach. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to cover all 45 dates there, but I am going to read the first entry, an entry from the middle, and the last entry. So let's go ahead and begin with 37DR, Alagon Settled. And the DR stands for Dale Reckoning in the Forgotten Realms, and it is taken from the year of sunrise, 1 DR, when the Standing Stone was raised by the elves of Cormanthier and the humans of the Dale Lands. Since this time, humans were permitted by the Elven Court to settle in the more open regions of the forests. Okay, now back to Alagon Settled. The first recorded settlement in Alagon is registered in a trade journal dating back some 1400 years ago in negative 37 DR. Long before there was a country of Termish, the city of Alagon stood upon the shores of the Sea of the Fallen Stars. It quickly became a trade center for the Inner Sea. What was initially little more than a stopping point for ships on their way farther south suddenly became a major port that allowed the goods to be settled inland to the nomadic tribes of the Shining Plains and the dwarves who resided in the Osron Mountains. Villages began to spring up along the trade route, and the population of future Termish swelled. The success of Alagon in establishing itself as a port city convinced other sea traders to create a trade center within the Vilhan Reach. The center permitted them to establish trade with the elves of the Chandalewood and eventually allowed them easier access to the lands south. So you see, you could start your party there at the very beginning, if you'd like, when things are getting established and maybe there's some battles going on and maybe there are some fights along the way with these nomadic tribes of the Shining Plains, and maybe somebody's trying to stop the establishment of this city and you are trying to help them establish. You're part of establishing this whole region. Okay, now let me go ahead and jump to 640 DR, the year of the Fanged Beast. In 640, the year of the Fanged Beast, the citizens of Ormath and Leshael found themselves under constant attack from saber-toothed tigers. Caravans were completely destroyed. Entire patrols disappeared in the Shining Plains. 3 mercenary companies proved their mettle by providing protection against the fearsome beast. Their actions secured the trade between the Shining Plains and Hondath. Now, this adventure writes itself. Imagine dropping the party into this part of history where you must join one of these mercenary teams and you have to deal with these saber-toothed tigers. Or what happens if the saber-toothed tigers return? Maybe there's a resurgent. Maybe there's a Tiger King, a kind of half human, half saber-tooth that is now leading a new generation of saber-toothed tigers. And that brings us to the last entry, or what would be current times in the Vilhan Reach, which is 1370 DR. The current political climate in the Reach is based on its past history. Chondath still dreams of regaining its former glory. Hondath still keeps a watchful eye on its independence. The Shining Plains are as wild a land as they have ever been, with Weemix and other creatures establishing their own homes away from the trade roads that bring humans into the area in droves. Sesbak continues to quarrel with Chondath, and everyone keeps a wary eye trained on the elves of the Chondalwood and the Emerald Enclave. And the coolest thing about that little section there is about the Weemix. And the Weemix are like centaurs, except they have the body of a lion and they roam around in prides. And I think that's just, Weemix are just cool creatures. I think if you can create an adventure around that, where you're either befriending the Weemix or maybe trying to protect the Weemix from outside villains or monsters, then I think you have a really cool adventure there. Now, that last little bit there introduces one of the forces at work in the region, which is the Emerald Conclave, and this will be the section where you're deciding who are the major players in your area. And there's 4 major players in the Vilhan Reach, and that is the Emerald Enclave, the Harpers, the Red Wizards, and the Zentarum. Let me go ahead and give you a little synopsis of each. The Emerald Enclave, they're a force of druids who control the Vilhan Reach with an iron grip, working their best to eliminate the presence of many of the other power groups within the Vilhan Reach. Oh yeah, no adventure hooks there. And then there are the Harpers. The Harpers are those who harp. They're kind of a semi-secret type of organization dedicated to preserving historical lore, maintaining the balance between nature and civilization, and defending the innocent from the forces of evil across the realms. But the Harpers have had a difficult time operating in the Southern Lands, although opposition from the Red Wizards and the Zentarum have always been a concern for the Harpers. The Emerald Enclave has proven much more effective at thwarting the Harpers' cause. The Red Wizards, while very few of the Reds, as they say in the book here, have come down into this area, which makes me think that there are very few Red Wizards, which I guess are coming from Thay, but there's not a ton of information about the Red Wizards or the fact that they are a force in the area. In fact, it goes on to say, at least once every year, a lone Red Wizard is slain under dubious circumstances. In 1365, 2 known Red Wizards were crushed while standing at the docks of Alagon. Another Red Wizard met his death when his residence was struck repeatedly by lightning bolts during a freak spring storm in the summer of 1366. So it seems to me that the Emerald Enclave has it out for the Red Wizards. So this could be for a lot of fun, especially if you wish to either play a Red Wizard or, in fact, you want to be a part of the Emerald Enclave and you want to hunt down Red Wizards. And last but not least is the Zentarum. And the Zentarum basically is a spy organization that often deals in illicit goods and contraband with a cadre of self-serving thieves, spies, assassins, and malevolent wizards seeking to make a buck or establish a stronghold. Now, what I like about this is that there are only 4 forces at work, major forces. So if you're looking to establish some forces in your setting, try not to go overboard. You don't need 25 forces at work. If you just have 3 or 4 major forces at work, I think your setting is going to be fine, and then everything kind of revolves around them. And as always, I would love your input. Which of these forces at work do you think gives you the most opportunity for adventure? Is it the Emerald Enclave, or the Harpers, or the Red Wizards, or the Zentarum? Which of these forces would you like to see your characters play in? Don't forget to check out the other videos in this series, and don't forget to hit that thumbs up button that tells me you like the video and you want more of them. But that is it for now. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will catch you guys in the next video.